Welcome back to Strides to Solutions. I'm Esther Adams, and today we're talking about something that's probably on your mind as we head into 2026 equestrian goals, specifically riding goals, show goals, training goals. That list you've been making in your head about what you want to accomplish with your horse this year. And I need to tell you something that might sting a little at first. The way most of us have been taught to set goals, it's designed for a world that doesn't exist in the barn. It assumes predictability. It assumes you're in control of the variables. It assumes that if you just work hard enough and plan well enough, you can make things happen on schedule. Your horse has opinions about that. I've been diving deep into research on goal setting psychology, and I came across this framework that immediately made me think of riders. The researcher Nassim Taleb talks about three categories of things: fragile, robust, and anti fragile. Fragile things break under stress. Think of a wine glass. Robust things resist stress, they stay the same. But anti fragile things, they actually get stronger from stress and volatility. They benefit from chaos. And here's what hit me: traditional goal setting, I will achieve X by date Y, is fragile. It only works if conditions cooperate. But we're partnering with 1,200-pound flight animals who don't care about our calendars, our show schedules, or our carefully planned training progressions. Horses are essentially chaos agents. They get abscesses the day before a clinic. They get fresh when the weather drops. They tweak something in turnout, and suddenly your show season is on hold. So today, I want to share a different approach, a way to set goals that doesn't shatter when your horse throws you a curveball, which he will. Goals that might actually get better when things don't go according to plan. I'm going to give you a complete protocol you can use with specific examples for dressage and Western dressage riders. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about why traditional riding goals tend to fail. And I don't mean fail because you're not working hard enough or you're not dedicated enough. I mean they're structurally designed to create frustration, and there's actual research on this specific to equestrian sports. Studies in equestrian psychology show that when riders focus on outcome goals, score 65%, win the medal, qualify for championships, their anxiety increases and their performance often drops. The mechanism has to do with something called self-determination theory. One of our core psychological needs is a sense of competence, feeling capable and effective. Outcome goals threaten that sense of competence because the outcome is largely outside our control. The judge's opinion, the horse's mood that day, the weather, whether another horse in warm up sets yours off, none of that is up to you. And here's where it gets really interesting for riders specifically. When your goal creates anxiety, that anxiety shows up in your body. You tighten, your seat gets harder, your hands get fixed, and your horse, who's exquisitely sensitive to your physical state, feels every bit of that tension and mirrors it right back to you. The fragile goal literally makes your horse worse. Your anxiety about achieving the outcome creates the very tension that prevents you from achieving it. Let me give you an example. Say your goal is score a 70% at second level test 2 by June. That's a SMART goal, right? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time bound. It's exactly what every goal setting book tells you to do. Now, let's say your horse rips its shoe off in May, or develops a mystery lameness that takes 3 weeks to diagnose, or the June show gets canceled because of flooding, or, and this happens all the time, your horse just isn't ready. He's not confirmed enough in the movements. Pushing him to meet your calendar would mean compromising his training or his trust. What happens psychologically when you miss that June deadline? For most riders, even if they intellectually know it wasn't their fault, they feel like failures. They've spent 6 months oriented toward a specific target, and now that target has evaporated. Some riders get frustrated and push too hard. Some get discouraged and pull back. Either way, the goal that was supposed to motivate them has become a source of stress. I call this the discouragement spiral. Once you've mentally categorized your progress as behind or failed, it's hard to stay motivated. The gap between where you are and where you should be feels insurmountable. And so riders do what Maria did with her savings goal in my last episode. They stop tracking altogether, they disengage. The goal that was supposed to pull them forward has pushed them away. Here's the thing, this isn't a character flaw, it's a design flaw. The goal itself was fragile. It could only succeed under specific conditions that were never fully in your control. So, what's the alternative? This is where the anti fragile framework comes in. Instead of goals that break under pressure, we're going to build goals that can adapt and maybe even improve when circumstances change. I've adapted a 6-step protocol specifically for equestrians. It combines the flexibility of what researchers call open goals with concrete action tools that have good evidence behind them. The protocol is vector, floor, whoop, if then plans, process metrics, and weekly review. Let me walk you through each one with riding specific examples. Step 1 is what I call the vector. This is about choosing a direction over a destination. In traditional goal setting, you pick a target, a specific score, a specific level, a specific show result. The problem with targets is they're binary. You either hit them or you don't. And when you're working with horses, the variables that determine whether you hit them are only partially under your control. A vector is different. It's a direction of movement, not a fixed point. Instead of score a 70% at basic level test 4 by June, your vector might be develop the quality of the gaits and acceptance of contact. Instead of qualify for the world show, your vector might be maximize the rideability and adjustability of my horse. The research actually supports this strongly. Sports psychologists distinguish between outcome goals, performance goals, and process goals. Process goals, the ones focused on how you execute a skill rather than what result you achieve, are consistently associated with better performance and lower anxiety. They're entirely within your control, which stabilizes your confidence and, crucially for riders, keeps your aids soft. When you're not gripping mentally at an outcome, you're less likely to grip physically at your horse.
Now, here's why this matters practically. If your goal is that 70% by June and your horse bows a tendon in April, you're looking at months of stall rest and rehab. You can't make progress toward that goal. But if your vector is develop acceptance of contact, you can absolutely work on that through in-hand work during his rehab walks. You can study theory, audit clinics, work on your own fitness. You can school another horse and bring those skills back to your partnership. You're still moving along the vector, even when your horse is on the injured list.
The vector approach also prevents what I see all the time with riders, the tunnel vision that makes everything else feel like a distraction. When your only goal is qualify for X show, every ride becomes about that. You stop noticing other improvements. You might actually be developing a much better connection with your horse, much better feel, much better timing, but because those aren't the specific thing on your target list, they don't register as wins. With a vector, anything that moves you in that direction counts. Your horse had a spooky day, but you kept your cool and brought him back to relaxation. That's progress on rideability. You didn't get the lengthening you wanted, but the transitions were smoother than ever. That's progress on adjustability. You're collecting wins instead of tallying failures. And here's something that traditional goal setting often misses entirely. Rider development doesn't only happen in the saddle. When your vector is develop my effectiveness as a rider, suddenly a whole range of activities count as progress. Can't ride because your horse is lame? You can still study dressage theory, read a biomechanics book, watch training videos with intention, analyze tests from top riders. That's movement along your vector. Audit a clinic even if you can't ride in it. Work on your own fitness, core strength, cardio, flexibility. These aren't distractions from your riding goals, they are your riding goals. A stronger core means a more stable seat. Better cardio means you're not gasping for air in the canter work. Improved flexibility means you can actually achieve the position your trainer keeps asking for. I think of this as the biopsychosocial approach to rider development. The bio is your physical fitness, your body's ability to do what riding demands. The psycho is the mental game, your focus, your emotional regulation, your ability to stay calm under pressure. The social is your support system, your trainer, your barn community, the clinicians you learn from. All three feed into your effectiveness as a rider, and all three can be developed even when you're not on a horse. So, when you're injured and can't ride for 6 weeks, you're not losing ground on your equestrian goals, not if your vector is broad enough. You can spend that time strengthening your core, deepening your theoretical knowledge, watching and analyzing video. You come back to the saddle with a stronger body and a more educated eye. That's not a setback. That's a different kind of progress. So here's your first exercise. Take whatever goal you've been thinking about for 2026. Maybe it's win High Point, or move up to first level, or get my bronze medal scores. Now, reframe it as a vector. Ask yourself, what quality of movement, what aspect of the partnership, what development in my writing is that goal actually about? That's your vector. I will explore and improve my horse's relaxation and rhythm. I will develop my horse's confidence in new environments. I will build engagement and self carriage. Pick the quality, not the scorecard. Step 2 is setting your floor. This might be the most important step for riders because we tend to have an all or nothing mentality. If I can't ride for 45 minutes and do my full training plan, I do nothing. If I can't get to the barn and school, what's the point of going at all? The floor is your minimum viable interaction. It's what keeps the partnership alive when everything else falls apart. It's not your ideal, it's your baseline, the thing you commit to doing no matter what. There's a concept in psychology called self efficacy, your belief in your ability to succeed at something. When riders set high compliance goals like ride 5 days a week for 45 minutes, missing a single day creates a sense of failure. That failure chips away at your self efficacy. I'm not a dedicated rider. I can't even stick to a simple schedule. The goal that was supposed to build you up tears you down. Setting a floor protects your self efficacy by making success almost always achievable. And here's something else. Research on equine learning actually supports shorter, more frequent sessions over long, intensive ones. Horses learn better with what's called spaced repetition. So your floor isn't just a psychological concession. It might actually be better for your horse's training than the marathon sessions you feel guilty about missing. For riders, the floor might look like, I will put hands on my horse for 10 minutes. That's it. That's the floor. On days when you can ride your full schooling session, great. But on the days when it's pouring rain, your floor might be 10 minutes of carrot stretches or in hand lateral work in the barn aisle. On days when you're exhausted from work, your floor might be a 15-minute walk ride on a loose rein. On days when your horse is off, your floor might be grooming and icing. Why does the floor matter so much? Because it prevents the guilt spiral. You know the one. You miss a day at the barn, then you feel guilty, then the guilt makes it harder to go back, then you miss another day, and pretty soon you haven't been out in a week and you feel terrible about yourself and your horse and everything. The floor short circuits that spiral. You didn't ride today, but you met your floor. You groomed and did some stretches. You're still in the game. You're still showing up. And psychologically, that continuity matters enormously. It's much harder to fall into a discouragement spiral when you're consistently meeting your minimum. I want to be clear. The floor isn't about lowering your standards. It's about being strategic. On your good days, you'll do much more than the floor. But on your bad days, and there will be bad days, the floor keeps you connected. It keeps the habit alive. And often, once you've started your floor activity, you find you have more energy than you thought. The hardest part is usually just getting to the barn. Step 3 is WHOOP. This is a technique developed by psychologist Gabriele Oettingen, and it stands for Wish, Outcome, Obstacle, Plan. The research on this is solid. It significantly improves goal follow through compared to just positive thinking or visualization alone. Here's how it works for riders. Start with your wish. This is what you genuinely want, not what you think you should want, but what actually motivates you. Maybe it's moving up to level 1. Maybe it's feeling truly connected with your horse. Maybe it's conquering your show nerves. Get specific and personal. Next is outcome. This is where you visualize what achieving that wish would actually look and feel like. If your wish is moving up to first level, what does that feel like in your body? Maybe it's feeling the power of the lengthenings, feeling your horse lift his back and step under, feeling that moment of suspension. Really let yourself imagine it, not just the ribbon or the score, but the physical sensation of riding a horse who's working at that level. Now, here's the part that makes Whoop different from regular visualization: the obstacle. What internal obstacle is most likely to get in your way? And I mean internal. Not my horse might go lame, but I might get nervous and grab the reins. Not the weather might be bad, but I might give up when progress feels slow. For equestrians, common internal obstacles include fear, frustration, impatience, comparison to other riders, and the tendency to push too hard or give up too easily. Be honest here. What's your pattern? When things get hard, what do you typically do? Do you get tense and your horse feels it? Do you avoid the movements that scare you? Do you get frustrated and pick fights? This isn't about judgment, it's about knowing yourself. Finally, the plan. This is where you create an if then response for that obstacle. If my horse gets tense at shows, then I will ride a 10-meter circle and breathe out until he softens. If I feel myself getting frustrated, then I will walk on a loose rein for 2 minutes before asking again. The key is that the plan is an action, not a hope. Not, I'll try to stay calm, but I will do this specific thing. The research suggests that this combination, vividly imagining the positive outcome and honestly confronting the obstacles and creating a concrete plan, works better than any of those elements alone. It's like you're pre programming your brain to respond effectively when challenges arise, rather than just hoping you'll figure it out in the moment. Step 4 is if then plans, and this extends the planning piece of Whoop into specific equestrian situations. The idea is to pre-decide your response to common riding challenges so you don't have to react emotionally in the saddle. You've already made the decision when you were calm and thinking clearly. This is especially important for riders because of how the brain works under stress. Equestrian sports are unique. Our equipment has its own brain. When a horse spooks or misbehaves, your brain floods with adrenaline. The fight or flight response kicks in, and your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decision making, essentially goes offline. This is why riders often do things in the heat of the moment that they know better than to do. You know you shouldn't yank on his mouth when he spooks, but your panicked brain bypasses that knowledge. If then plans, which psychologists call implementation intentions, work by automating the response. You don't have to decide to keep your leg on when he spooks. You've pre programmed it. The research suggests this can partially bypass the panic response because the decision has already been made. Let me give you some examples. The spook plan. If he spooks at the corner, then I will soften my hand, exhale, and put him in shoulder 4 rather than pulling back. Notice this is specific and it's counterintuitive. Your instinct when a horse spooks is to grab and tighten, but the plan pre programs the opposite: soften, breathe, redirect. That's the hardest part for riders, and it's exactly why you need to decide it in advance when you're calm. The weather plan. If it's too windy to ride safely, then I will do 20 minutes of groundwork or showmanship practice. This prevents the all or nothing thinking. You've pre-decided that windy days aren't wasted days, they're groundwork days. The bad ride plan. If we get into a fight and I feel frustrated, then I will get off immediately, loosen the girth, and hand walk for 5 minutes to reset before getting back on, or putting him away if I need to. This one matters because how you handle bad rides determines whether they spiral into bad weeks or become minor blips. The show nerves plan. If I feel my anxiety rising in the warm up ring, then I will drop my stirrups, take 3 deep breaths, and do a stretchy walk circle. Again, specific, physical, pre decided. The power of if then plans is that they move the decision making out of the stressful moment and into a calm planning moment. When you're in the saddle and your horse spooks, your brain wants to react emotionally. But if you've rehearsed the if then enough times, the planned response can become automatic. You've essentially preloaded your better judgment. I'd suggest creating at least 3 if then plans that cover your most common friction points. What situations tend to derail you? What moments do you handle poorly when you're tired or stressed or scared? Those are the ones to plan for. Step 5 is process metrics. This is about changing what you measure. Most writers track outcomes, ribbons won, scores received, levels achieved. The problem with outcome metrics is that they're only partially under your control. You can ride the best test of your life and still not get the score you wanted because of judge preferences or a spook at the wrong moment or any number of factors. Process metrics are different. They track what you do, not what happens to you. And the beautiful thing about process metrics is they're fully under your control. Instead of tracking blue ribbons won, try tracking number of quality transitions ridden per ride. Instead of tracking your dressage scores, try tracking percentage of rides that ended on a relaxed, loose rein. Instead of tracking show placements, try tracking days I showed up, even if you just groomed. Other process metrics for riders might include minutes spent at the walk in warm up, number of successful walk canter transitions attempted, frequency of praise and reward given during the ride, times you noticed and corrected your own position, quality of your own breathing and relaxation during the ride. Process metrics keep you focused on improvement rather than comparison. They give you a sense of progress even when outcomes are variable, and they align with what actually produces long term development consistent, quality practice over time. I'd suggest picking just 1 or 2 process metrics to track. More than that becomes burdensome. Choose the ones that are most relevant to your vector. If your vector is develop relaxation and rhythm, maybe you track rides that ended on a calm note and walks taken before asking for more. If your vector is build confidence in new environments, maybe you track outings completed and recovery time after spooks. Step 6 is the weekly review. Think of this as a soundness check, not just for your horse, but for your whole approach. Once a week, take 5 minutes to ask yourself 3 questions. First, did I listen to my horse? This means honestly assessing whether you pushed for something he wasn't physically or mentally ready for, or whether you honored where he was that day. The horse always tells you where he is. The question is whether you're listening. Second, did I meet my floor? Not your ideal training plan, your floor. If you met it every day, great. If you didn't, what got in the way? Does the floor need to be adjusted, or do you need to problem solve the obstacles? Third, what needs adjusting? Maybe you noticed your horse feels stiff to the left and needs more suppling work in warm up. Maybe your if then plan for windy days didn't actually work and you need a different strategy. Maybe your process metric isn't capturing what matters and you want to change it. The weekly review is where you calibrate. Some writers like to add a 4th question. Did I maintain the trust account this week? Meaning, did you make more deposits than withdrawals in your relationship with your horse? Did you end rides on good notes? Did you reward the try? The trust account framing can be a useful check on whether your pursuit of goals is building the partnership or eroding it. Let me put this all together with a real example. Say you're a Western dressage rider and your traditional goal was qualify for the World Show in 2026. You've been chasing this for 2 years, and it's always felt just out of reach. You're stressed about it. Your horse feels your stress. The whole thing has become more anxious than joyful. Here's how you'd reframe it using the anti fragile protocol. Your vector becomes maximize the rideability and adjustability of my horse. This is what World Show qualification is actually about. It's a measure of those qualities. But now you're pursuing the qualities directly, not the scorecard. If you develop a truly rideable, adjustable horse, the qualifying scores tend to follow. And even if they don't, even if you miss a show due to weather or lameness or whatever, you still have a more rideable, adjustable horse. That's not nothing. Your floor becomes, I will put hands on my horse for 10 minutes, 5 days a week. On good days, that's a full schooling session. On bad days, that's grooming and stretches. But you're maintaining the connection no matter what. Your whoop might look like Wish, ride at the World Show on a horse that feels soft and confident. Outcome. Imagine that feeling of riding down center line on a horse who's truly with you, relaxed and powerful. Obstacle. When scores aren't where I want them, I get tense and start drilling movements, which makes my horse tense and hollow. Plan. If I catch myself drilling, then I will immediately go to a stretchy walk circle and focus on my own breathing for 2 minutes. Your if then plans might be if my horse feels behind my leg in warm up, then I will do 10 transitions before asking for anything else. If I'm nervous before a test, then I will find a quiet spot in the warm up and do shoulder in on a circle until I feel my seat relax. If we have a bad movement in the test, then I will take a breath and ride the next movement as if it's a fresh start. Your process metrics might be number of rides where I focused on adjustability, transitions, half halts, changes of tempo, rather than drilling test movements. Percentage of rides that ended with my horse seeking the contact rather than bracing. Your weekly review is those 3 questions every Sunday. Did I listen to him? Did I meet my floor? What needs adjusting? Now, here's what's different. If your horse comes up lame in April, you're not derailed. You can still work on your vector through in hand work, through groundwork that builds his responsiveness, through your own fitness and position work on other horses. If a show gets canceled, you're not shattered. You just keep developing the qualities you're after, and there will be other shows. If you have a bad test, you don't spiral. You look at what you learned and adjust. The goal has become anti fragile. It can adapt to circumstances instead of breaking against them. I want to say something about why this matters beyond just achieving goals, because I think there's something deeper here about how we relate to our horses. When we set rigid, outcome based goals, we put pressure on the partnership. The horse becomes a vehicle for our achievement rather than a partner in an ongoing conversation. We start evaluating every ride by whether it moved us closer to the goal, and that evaluation can make us deaf to what the horse is actually telling us. I've seen riders push through subtle signs of discomfort because they needed to get a movement solid before a show. I've seen riders get frustrated with horses who were trying their hearts out, but just weren't ready for what was being asked. I've seen riders lose all the joy in their riding because it became about the scorecard instead of the horse. The anti fragile approach doesn't guarantee you won't make those mistakes, but it creates more space for the horse to be a horse. When your vector is develop relaxation and rhythm, you're more likely to notice that your horse is telling you something when he braces or rushes. When your floor includes, even if we just walk, you're giving yourself permission to honor where your horse is on any given day. When your process metrics include rides that ended on a good note, you're building in a check against pushing too hard. The weekly question, did I maintain the trust account, is maybe the most important one, because the trust account is everything. A horse who trusts you will try for you, will forgive your mistakes, will give you the benefit of the doubt on a hard day. A horse whose trust account is depleted will brace, resist, check out, and no amount of goal achievement is worth losing that trust. Let me give you the short version one more time. The protocol is 6 steps. 1. Choose a vector, a direction of development, not a fixed target. I will explore and improve my horse's relaxation, or adjustability, or confidence, or whatever quality you're after. 2. Set your floor, the minimum interaction that keeps you connected when everything else falls apart. 10 minutes, a walk ride, grooming, something you can do no matter what. 3. Do a whoop. Wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. Get clear on what you want, visualize it fully, identify your internal obstacle honestly, and create a specific if then plan for when it shows up. 4. Create 3 if then plans for your most common friction points: the spook, the bad weather, the frustration, the nerves, whatever derails you most often. 5. Track 1 or 2 process metrics: what you do, not what happens to you. Days showed up, quality transitions ridden, rides ended well. 6. Weekly review: did I listen to my horse? Did I meet my floor? What needs adjusting? That's it. That's the protocol. Here's the truth about horses: they're going to throw you curveballs. The abscess before the clinic, the spook at the show, the mystery lameness, the day they're just not having it. That's not a bug in the system. That's the system. You're not riding a machine. You're partnering with a living creature who has his own body, his own emotions, his own opinions. The question isn't how to prevent those curveballs. You can't. The question is how to build a goal system that works with the chaos instead of against it. 2026 is going to be unpredictable. Your horse is going to do things you don't expect. Some of them will be wonderful. That moment when a movement suddenly clicks, when the connection deepens, when you feel something you've never felt before. Some of them will be frustrating: the setback, the plateau, the day everything falls apart. If you build your goals the old way, the fragile way, those unpredictable moments will feel like obstacles to your progress. But if you build them the anti fragile way, every one of those moments becomes data, information, an opportunity to learn something about your horse, about yourself, about the partnership you're building. And isn't that why we do this? Not for the ribbons, though those are nice, not for the scores, though those can be affirming. The research on motivation is clear: intrinsic motivation, the drive that comes from mastery itself, from the joy of getting better at something, lasts longer and feels better than extrinsic motivation, driven by external rewards. We do this because there's something about the partnership with a horse that teaches us things we can't learn anywhere else: patience, feel, timing, trust, the willingness to keep trying, to stay soft, to listen even when it's hard. The best goals are the ones that keep you in that conversation, the ones that keep you learning, adapting, growing alongside your horse, the ones that make room for the chaos, because the chaos is part of the deal. Here's what I want you to take away. The science tells us that rigid outcome goals actually trigger the fight or flight response in riders, which ruins the very relaxation our horses need from us. The best planning method isn't a calendar of horse shows, it's a menu of skills we are mastering. When you plan for mastery instead of ribbons, you build a rider brain that stays calm when things go wrong. And that, the calm, adaptable rider brain, is what actually wins ribbons in the end. Thanks for listening to Strides to Solutions. If you try this protocol, I'd love to hear how it goes. Share your vector and your floor with me on social media or shoot me an email. I've put together a free worksheet called The Equestrian Goal Architect that walks you through all 6 steps with fill in the blank prompts specifically for riders. You can download it from the link in the show notes or on my website. Until next time, keep taking strides and give your horse a scratch from me.